I see a lot of these platforms, podcasts, talk shows, etc., that are really doing more harm in putting a wedge between black men and black women in some of the conversations that are being had there. And I'd go out on a limb, man, and say, piggybacking off of something you just said, you sisters out there who, know that you've got a great husband, great father to your children, etc. Understand and know that man's every thought is you and those children.
Yeah.
How do I take care of them? How do I protect them? And how do I plan for their futures? Well, we welcome you, soulmates, to the Soul of a Man podcast. We're excited today because we're doing the first of what we are calling Soul to Soul Check-In. And it is just that. We are just checking in with each other. Myself, Michael Allen Humphrey Sr., also known as Hump, also known as Chill, and many other names. And my boy, my podcast partner in crime, Wonder Twin, Darren DB Bryant. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, bro. How about yourself, man?
Doing good on this.
It's funny.
This
I
great.
see we both got. I see we both got the A&T hoodie message this morning. we got the memo. This was not planned nor scripted.
Understood the assignment, right?
And there you go. That's those
Literally
Wonder Twin powers.
Yeah, man, no doubt. We literally can't get away from it. But yeah, excited about today. Just go have a conversation. When we started this podcast, one of the reasons that you gave for wanting to even use this medium to talk to our folks was coming off of the death of Ellen DeGeneres DJ Twitch.
Yep.
Who tragically committed suicide probably a bit over a year or so now. Yep. And, we just talked a bit about that and talked a bit, just about brothers kind of suffering in silence at times and wanting to see how we could create a platform that we could start some dialogue that brothers could have. We realized very quickly that where the brothers needed a dialogue, the sisters also needed a dialogue. Our model changed a bit to be that much more inclusive, but there's still some emphasis and focus on Black men. And according to the CDC, we're literally going through epidemic type numbers of Black male suicide, both adults and adolescents. And, not to focus solely on that, but again, to just shine some light again on the fact that there's just a lot of brothers out there. We talked about it again as we started. There's a lot of brothers out there who just don't have that outlet to release some of this and some of what we carry, some of the burden of, going to work each day, making sure that we're protecting and providing for our families and all of that. And too often, again, that suffering at times is done in silence. Yep. So, it's critical that we check in with each other and check in to see how persons are doing. And oftentimes it's the ones that we think are the strongest are the ones that need it the most, just to hear a voice that can help ease some of whatever is going on, or at least sharing it.
No, man, I think you're right. It's interesting as we've been approaching this second half topic. One thing I've realized that typically in your second half, and this may not hold true for everyone, but for a lot of us, it does. Your circle of influence starts to shrink. So you have,
Yeah.
fewer friends than you did when you were younger. Some, who have self-selected out of the process. Some you've pushed out, and some who, frankly, has just moved out due to them passing away or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when your circle of influence starts to shrink, your family circle starts to shrink for the same reasons.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah, a lot of times you find yourself alone, even if you're married with kids. Sometimes for most of us, especially most of our peers, our kids are adults now, or
Right.
headed into adulthood. So you don't have
Except for
them
me
there.
and you.
Yeah, exactly. You have them off forming their own lives and doing, what they do, building their own families, fostering their careers and whatnot. And
Right.
a lot of time as the parent and the spouse, you're the ones left behind and trying to figure this thing out. I think we talked about it on the last episode with my brother when we talked about adolescence and
Yeah.
how adolescence and adolescence is very similar. The difference is in adolescence, you have a support system, you have somewhere they're coaching you on and helping you. And middle
Right.
lessons is kind of just you on your own trying to figure this thing out, this second half of life out. Um,
Right. Right.
so what we don't have in a lot of cases is again that outlet, especially brothers of other brothers to talk to and sisters who we need to talk to, or at least who will understand what we're feeling. And
Right.
so next thing you know, you're just alone with your thoughts, and that can be a
Right.
dangerous space to play in if you're not careful.
Yeah, yeah. You used the term in the past, man. I think it was like sister circle, um, that you referred to, talking about the ladies in our lives having circles of friends. They travel together, they shop together, they brunched together,
Yeah.
and they seem to kind of always be in communications with each other, whereas if it's brothers checking in with each other, some people, delusional, I think, but some people see that as a sign of weakness of some sort, and vulnerability, that just ourselves, we won't always put ourselves in that situation to be that vulnerable with another person, much less another brother.
Well, I think it's that, and I think we as men, and again, I'm generalizing, for the
Yeah.
most part, don't do a really good job of planning this kind of stuff. If
Right.
if a group of women say, "Hey, we're going to Dubai in September," you can best believe they're going to Dubai in September.
Right. Right.
And we can't, and I think I've said this before, we can't get a group of brothers to plan a trip from Greensboro to Charlotte. I don't know what it is. I don't know if our days are too busy, if we just don't have time to think about it. It'll
Yeah.
become a pissing contest on who's going to do what. I don't know, but it's
Right.
very difficult. But if sisters say they're going to Dubai in September, they're going to Dubai in September. Come
Right.
hell or high waters.
Yeah.
And if one sister doesn't have the funds or the resources, oh, they'll chip in and get her there,
Yeah.
and make
Yeah.
sure she
No
has a
doubt.
good time. So
You know,
I give them props, man. Kudos to the
yeah.
women for being able to do it.
But you know what? With us, though, again, I think some of it is just in some cases just a lack of vulnerability, and just uncertainty, uh, about even traveling, with one another. Am I going to be able to deal with these knuckleheads for 4 days, 5 days, or whatever the case is? I remember several years back, man, my church up in Brooklyn did an annual men's retreat. And I remember the first one as it was coming up. I'd never done anything like that before. And it was up in upstate New York, up in the mountains somewhere, no cell service for the weekend.
Hmm.
And literally just going out for a spiritual retreat, with a group of brothers that we call the frontliners, the men's ministry of that church. Man, I literally hit like a panic attack the night before. I was like, I ain't going out in the woods with a bunch of dudes. Uh, ain't got no cell service. I don't really know these brothers all that well. And I really don't want to do this. And got literally pushed out of the house and was like, no, you need to do it. You're going to do it. And it was life changing. Literally just to kind of be in a place, in a space, beautiful first and foremost, and then just a place where you could let the guard down. Again, no cell service, so couldn't use that. And it was just an opportunity for some introspection, opportunity to have some quiet conversation with God, to be ministered to. And it was a life-changing event. And I went every year after that because it was so good. But we've got to learn to let those guards down, especially with each other.
Yeah, it's funny, man. So we haven't done a podcast episode in person in this year.
Yes.
So since
Yeah.
what, December, I guess it was.
Right.
Here we are 3 months in the year. And while I'm here, I need to actually say something. This is in dedication to a brother that I know. His name is Lonnie Clark. Hopefully he'll see this episode. He's a little bit older than we are. He's an OG. He's actually one of your frat brothers out of Charlotte. And he says in every month, he'll say, welcome to the third month of Black History Year. So because to him, Black history goes throughout the year. We're not settling for February. So I want to say that and shout out to Brother Lonnie. And I'd also like to say happy Women's History Month. And shout out to those women who've made history, especially those women of color who continue to do it and push the envelope on a daily basis. With that said, we haven't done one of these in person. And man, honestly, for our viewers, man, I think they need to know we haven't spoken a lot for whatever reason. I mean, we've jumped on here and there, but like when we know we're doing them in person, man, we talk all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
I think we've communicated, but it's like via text. Hey, man, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And then there have been times where we've both gone radio silent. And I think when, especially me, well, I would say both of us, when there's radio silence on our part, it's probably because something is wrong. Well, I shouldn't say wrong, because it could be I'm the type of person when I'm quiet, I'm either doing one or two things. I'm either really processing information and I need that silence around me to process it, or I'm trying to think my way through a situation or a problem. And I sense that you're very similar. So it's interesting that we haven't conversed a lot over this past, I don't know, last several weeks. And when you brought this to my attention to do a check-in, because we planned on airing a different episode this week, you brought this check-in to my attention. And I said, you know what? It's probably not a bad idea. I didn't know if it was you sensing something wrong with me or actually you, I hate to use this term, but crying out for help for yourself. So here we are, man. And with that, bruh, I guess, we both, carry the burden of our families on our shoulders. We both are sounding boards for a lot of our friends. We've been obviously sounding boards for one another. But that gets taxing. As a couple years ago, well, several years ago, I was going through what I was going through relationship wise. I was visiting my doctor. I'd lost a lot of weight. And at that time, I was not sad about weight loss, but he told me there's a healthy way to lose weight and there's an unhealthy way. And that was obviously an unhealthy way. But he said to me that if you're pouring into everyone else, who's pouring into you? And he explained to me that my tank was on empty because I was pouring into everyone else and there was no one pouring into me. And so, man, with that said, I know how we both kind of are. I would ask you today how you're feeling. What's the one word to describe where you are right now, Brett? Because honestly, we haven't spoken and I don't know.
No, you hit everything right on the head. We are very, very similar in that regard, in regards to the radio silence. I tend to turn inside and become a bit even more introverted than I am normally. And there has just been a lot going on. I mean, just that simple. Um, I shared with you sometime back, actually the first episode of this year when we were just launching the second half piece, that the past really 2.5, now going on 3 years, has just been a challenge, to say the least. Coming off of my marriage splitting back in 2021, and my move back to North Carolina, it kind of started the beginning of what has been a real upward climb since. Just total transparency. I had was under the impression, had talked about it, um, thought that my family would be coming here with me,
Mhm.
and that ended up not being the case. My two 18-year-olds, my twins, were at that point rising juniors in high school. And I had a point where I had to make a decision to stay in something that was ending, or make a move that was going to be good for me, and in my mind, good for the family as a whole, and at least good for the kids who talked about going to college in North Carolina.
Yep.
And I made that move, but it was, man, it was the first time I had not been in these kids' lives 24/7 in 16 years, their entire lives. I had been there, even changed my work with the NFL, where I traveled a lot, to say, I can't travel like that anymore. At a midpoint in my career with the league, I said, I can't continue to go every week like that, because I've got these responsibilities at home. So when I say I was in their lives every day, I was in their lives every day. So to come here without them, and to go through what was going on without them for that period of time, it broke me. I mean, when I say broken, I mean completely broken. I'm sure that there was some period, some time of depression that I may not have recognized,
Mhm.
but very, very isolated, um, difficult to really be social in that time frame, because every thought was them. And it has been a time where I needed to really shut things down and sit down, uh, look inside, do a whole lot of self reflection, a whole lot of prayer, whole lot of meditation, a whole lot of pleading with God. I don't know what you're doing with me right now, but please send me a sign, tell me what you're doing. Um, Only to have some other heavy life experiences come in on top of that. Um, Learned that my brother was ill, and yet another blow, another blow.
Mhm.
The role that I came back to Greensboro for ended. Another blow on top of that. So it's, that was three major things that were just compounding on top of each other in the midst of really a depressed state. So fast forward, all three kids are here by their choice.
Yeah.
Um, and on that front, could not be happier. I don't know when I've ever been this happy in my
I feel
life. I mean, it's uh, I came from a ways 2 years ago. I mean, I've really come a long way, but can't remember when I've been so happy to have them here. And although two of them live on campus, college students, freshmen, um, and I don't see them a lot, just the fact that they're this close, and if I need to put my hands on them, I can, brings a lot of joy, man. But it was a climb up from a really, really, really dark place. So as I come into our conversation today, the kids are about settled in what they need. Real successful first semester of school. Um, they have their friends, they have their lives, and things are settling in their regard. Look in the mirror at me, and I'm still getting back in alignment. That's the best way that I can put it. I'm really still coming back into alignment, and I'm the kind of personality, I'm used to my life having always been pretty aligned, and
Yeah.
it got way out of alignment for a second there. And it's still working on it. I ain't claiming to be there yet on top of things, but things are coming back into alignment some. But you asked for one word, and I gave you about 500.
Yeah.
But the one word to describe today in this moment is unfulfilled. And I say that because people look from the outside and they see some levels of success, and they see a life and they see a lifestyle. And for me, there's so much more yet to do.
Yep.
I just feel like 9 months out from turning 60, I'm kind of just scratching the surface. But at the same time, I know my runway is shortening,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just from a time perspective. I know I don't have the time that I had, you know, if all things are in line, all things are well. Um, I don't have the time that I had at 30 or 40 for that matter.
Right.
And it's shortening. So if there were a single word, um, for today, it would be a bit unfulfilled. Not that I can't get the fulfillment, not that I'm not working towards the fulfillment, but I'm not there right now.
I got you.
That's where I that's
Okay.
where I am. How about
Nice.
yourself? Where you coming in?
So man, I'm at a interesting point in life. To sort of piggyback off something you said, I was where you are or where you were with your kids early on in my life, like early.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, I Let me back up with my first set of kids. um, I traveled a lot for over the course of my career. I spent 6 months living in Australia. I spent a
Yeah.
lot of time in Asia Pacific, a lot of time in Europe, and I was much younger, and I was jet setting, and trying to just go get it, trying to make that almighty dollar. And
Yep.
so I kind of honestly, from a parenting perspective, neglected my older two. Uh,
Mhm.
Not by choice. It was more of me trying to provide a decent lifestyle for them and provide the things that I thought they needed and wanted.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
and so it was really all about me hustling, suited and booted, running through airports, doing my best. If those of us of age can remember best OJ Simpson Hertz commercial, running through airports. Um,
Absolutely.
and that was kind of my lifestyle.
Yeah.
You go through a divorce, and the kids fall in the middle of that. My kids were my youngest daughter. My middle daughter. She was when I divorced her mom. She was 3 or 4. I don't recall, but it's been a minute now. Uh,
Yeah.
and so fast forward to this point of life where I am now. Um, I have I have a wonderful wife, and I have these 2 babies, which I consider babies because they're 7 and 3. Um, didn't think this would ever happen to me in life. I was like, yeah, when I got my kids grown and out, I was like, I'm
Right.
good. I'm on easy street. Went through a divorce. I'd planned on being a serial dater.
Right.
I'm not going to front. I had a run. I'm talking about a run. I had a run in me that I was going to fulfill before I checked out of this piece. I
Right.
met my wife, and the run never happened. um, so
Exactly.
she and I get together. We get married. We have these 2 babies. Um, And then I really
Your,
leaned
your choice.
my choice. Yes. What she was like, Darren, I'm good if I don't have kids. She's like, I never thought I'd even be married. So here we are married. She's an only child. And I'm like, well, you can't be an only child and not give your mom grandkids.
Mhm.
My mom's got grandkids, two for me and the time two for my brother, whatever. I'm like, but your mom doesn't have grandkids and you're her only child.
Yeah.
So she's like, all right, let's do it. We planned on having one. We end up having two. I can promise you this: had the girl gotten here first, my son wouldn't be here because she is a handful and she's the best form of birth control. I promise you. Um, but anyway, so we have these two kids, man, and then I really, really, really leaned into fatherhood.
Yeah.
And I just leaned into being a husband and a father, man, and kind of put career. It just became what it is. I'm like, I don't want to travel anymore for career. Uh,
Yeah.
Still, to use still your word, unfulfilled. Still a bit unfulfilled when it came to the career, but it's like, you know what? Personally, my life is going really well.
Yeah.
Um, my wife and I, September, God willing, we're all healthy in here. We will be celebrating 10 years of marriage. So we made a conscious decision in January. I think I talked about how we sit down to plan our year, and we did that. And I said, "Yo, we're going into our 10th year. Uh, I want to do something every month
Mhm.
um, until our anniversary gets in. Then we'll do something big. So we're going to celebrate all year, God willing." We went to Miami. It wasn't really by choice, but I had a friend who had a birthday celebration or a surprise birthday celebration in Miami. So I swallowed my pride and my whole feelings against the state of Florida, and I went to support him.
Right.
So that was January. February, we were in Greensboro at the Pastor Mike concert
Mhm.
with DJ Cassidy. Had a
Yeah.
great time there, man. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do for the month of March. We're going to Puerto Rico in June.
Okay.
So, man, all of those things are great. You still battle with your issues. Don't get me wrong.
Right. Right.
And it's one of these things, and probably a lot of people can attest to this. It never really lines up as well as you would like for it to. Whether kids are great, wife is great, career is great. It's
Yeah.
always something. There's always these ebbs and flows somewhere in there, and something's not always quite right.
Right.
Um, 2023 probably surprising to a lot of people was a tough year for me.
Mhm.
Um, just because again, kids and leaning into the fatherhood and leaning into being a husband, all of that worked perfectly. But like I said, man, I was so probably career wise was the toughest year I've had. Still
Mhm.
gainfully employed or whatever, but man, I'm used to moving and shaking and making a big difference either in the industry, in a company, whatever that looks like. So I had
Right.
just a tough year mentally. I know we started the podcast, and that was a big, big relief for both of us. As stressful as it was
Yeah.
trying to start this, it still kind of held me together from a career standpoint, or at least from a profession standpoint, because it gave me that creative juice that I needed.
Right.
Um, and it's funny, and I know I'm dragging this, but I
No.
for my birthday, I went to New York to visit
Mhm.
friend of both of ours, my best friend, and
Yep.
he and I sat down over dinner, and we were just talking. He said, "Yo, man, it's been a minute since we, been face to face. What's going on?" I said, "Bruh, 2023 was a crazy year for me mentally." And
Yeah.
he's like, "I got something I want to share with you." So when I got back, he'd listened to me talk. I got back home. He hit me up. He said, "Man, I'm sending you something from Amazon. It should be here tomorrow."
Mhm.
And he sent me this book, and I've been reading this book. It's called The Invisible Ache: Black Men Identifying Their Pain and Reclaiming Their Power. And it's by Courtney B. Vance
Mhm.
and Dr. Robin L. Smith. So she's famously known as Dr. Robin. And
Okay.
the book, man, really
And
talks
Courtney
about
Vance is Angela
Angela
Bassett's
Bassett.
husband. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
trying to give him his own title other than going by Angela Bassett's husband. um,
Mr. Angela Bassett. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And man, they wrote this book, and I'm just really into the first few chapters. He was struggling because his father committed suicide many years ago. And then just recently, and I don't want to give the book away, but just recently, his godson committed suicide.
Mhm.
Um, and so when you talk about Black men identifying their pain and reclaiming their power, this is kind of why we started this podcast, man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I encourage all the brothers to run out and get this book. And I actually encourage
Mhm.
sisters to go out and get it too, because I think it's imperative that Black women understand how Black men think and how they feel.
Yeah.
Because if you wait on us to communicate it, you're probably going to be waiting a while. So if
Yeah.
there's some things you can listen to as women, if there's some things you can read as women that help you understand us, or maybe there's some just Black men who are relatively transparent like ourselves,
Right.
who will talk to you. And I don't make it my business to talk to somebody else's spouse about what they're dealing with.
Right.
But I am a man, I am a spouse, I am a father. So what we deal with is probably pretty ubiquitous across the board. And
Yeah.
so I encourage sisters to talk to someone, read this book, so they can deal and understand what their husbands are going with, man. Because we have
Yeah.
got, and you mentioned the suicide rate amongst men and adolescents, especially in our community, is
Right.
astronomical, and we got to do something to bring that down. And it's really
Yeah.
it's a mental health issue.
Being a cycle breaker means that you are in the forefront of what is happening. You got to take the hits. It's only hard because you've not done it before. But if you look back on what you've overcome, your perspective on what's happening next would shift.
Just the same way it says, some assembly required to get free and stay healed, some disassembly is required.
No more negative cycles. Regardless of what happened to you, you can make decisions to not let it negatively impact you anymore.
I speak that people will see you and they will recognize that a shift has happened and they will ask you, how did you do it? Cycle Breakers Conference 2024.
That's
we
a long story, bro.
Yeah. We had in the process of starting this up, it kind of determined that we were not going to be a relationship podcast because there's so many of them that are out there. A lot of people in that space. And I recently saw, and you and I've had this conversation, I recently saw a sister, relatively young sister, young to me, 30s or 40s. And she was making the point that I see a lot of these platforms, podcasts, talk shows, etc., that are really doing more harm in putting a wedge between Black men and Black women in some of the conversations that are being had there. And I'd go out on a limb, man, and say, piggybacking off of something you just said, you sisters out there who, know that you've got a great husband, great father to your children, etc., understand and know that man's every thought is you and those children.
Yeah.
How do I take care of them? How do I protect them? And how do I plan for their futures in my old age and when I'm not here? Their every thought. You and I get together, in person at times, D, and I picked on you about it, is we can get together and in a few minutes, you're checking the Apple Watch to see if Janelle has checked in or if she needs anything, how the kids doing, within minutes. The every thought is that woman and those children. And that's, it's a responsibility that brothers take on, good ones, that brothers take on willingly, but it's a lot. And again, it's not by no means am I saying it's a burden. It's what we've chosen to do, but it's a lot, and especially a lot when we leave you and go out in the world and encounter what we encounter in the world, where we are totally disrespected and even stronger, feared. uh that's a lot to take, for 8, 12 hours a day that you're out in the public, and then come home, knowing I've got to go through this out there to take care of what I've got at home.
Yeah.
But understand that brother is thinking about what he has to do to take care of you and that household and those children with every second of his day. I promise you.
Yeah,
Promise you.
no doubt. I tell you another thing, man, that I would encourage brothers and sisters, man. And I've done a fairly decent job of this. And I'm even more I'm being even more diligent about it as we talk about the second half. And that's in
Mhm.
protecting your peace, bruh. Uh
Yeah.
I am hell bent on protecting my peace.
Yeah.
I think you heard me say this. I'm not doing anything I don't want to do.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
hanging out with anybody I don't want to hang out with.
Yeah.
If you're in my circle and I want to hang with you, we will hang. If
Yeah.
you if you're not in my circle, I don't need to make new friends. I'm good.
Right.
If I happen to make a new acquaintance here or there, that's cool. But I don't need any good best friends anymore. At 58 years old, if I'm looking for a best friend at this point in my life, something's wrong.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'm married to my best friend.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I'm not looking for any more best friends. I'll take what comes along, but man, if you're not pouring into me, if you're not doing anything but taking, uh, I'm probably going to ask you to exit stage left, or I will just push you stage left.
Yeah.
And that's not me being mean. It's not me trying to be a dick or anything. I'm just being I'm
Right.
just being honest, man. I got to
Honestly.
protect my
Yeah.
peace at this point in my life, brother.
Yeah.
Um, and it's funny, man. Here we are. We're in another election cycle. And
Yeah.
I can honestly remember the last several election cycles, man, where I was all into what was going on CNN and Fox and every other news station that would allow me to watch.
Yeah.
I cared about what all of these candidates were saying and thought, and I cared about everything about it. And I still care because you have to. But
Right.
brethren, I don't turn the stuff on my television anymore. I will lean in just enough to know what's going on in the world.
Right.
You have to know what the enemy's doing. You have
Right.
to know what the inside is up to. If you catch my drift. Uh,
Yeah.
um, but as far as me leaning all the way in and letting it consume me like I did over these last couple of elections, I don't do it.
Yeah.
I rarely watch CNN. I don't crack the television unless it's something on Netflix that my wife and I are watching.
Right.
I don't deal with that foolishness. I will watch
Yeah.
TV for enjoyment purposes now, like sports and Super
Yep.
Bowl and basketball and stuff. But this other
Right.
stuff, I don't give it any parts of my peace and my sanity right now, brother. So that's one thing I would certainly suggest to everyone: protect your
Yeah.
peace at all costs.
It's so much negativity in the media, um, from news, and I'm like you. I lean in. I stay abreast enough to know what's happening, what's going on. Very much like you again, got consumed with the last 3, 4 presidential elections.
Yeah,
And it's just this vitriol amongst everyone, one party against the next, one person against the other, that you don't even realize how much you're being affected by it, in the end, because of the nature of what we do. And we've got a YouTube channel, and we do this podcast, and we're involved in social media. From that vantage point, I probably see more YouTube than I do network or cable television.
yeah,
Again, just seeing what other people in the same spaces that we're in, kind of watching what they do, seeing what they do. But even with that, you go onto YouTube and you got a page full of thumbnails. And when the thumbnails are Puffy did this and Nene did this and this one did this and this one did that, it's so much negativity that if you consume it, you're going to be tapping into that piece. You're absolutely going to be tapping into that piece. I appreciate you bringing the piece up of it, and kind of leads me into another area of kind of where I am at this point personally. As someone is single, everybody's connecting me, trying to connect me with someone now. And I was at a 25-year marriage, and kind of the last thing that I'm looking to do right now is to go into another long-term relationship. Fortunately, with it ending, it wasn't a tumultuous kind of ugly situation, cussing and fussing and throwing things. It was none of that at all. Two people that just drifted apart. But everybody's got an opinion about what I need to be doing socially at this point. And what my focus is protecting my peace right now. In a nutshell, I'm like, the other I'm sure will come, but it's got to come in the right time, and it's got to come in the right space. And I've been approached by some folks that the approach was just all wrong. The approach wasn't peaceful, and folks that really didn't even know what my current status and situation even is. And I'm like, yo, back up a little bit. I need you to back up a little bit, slow down a little bit, because you know so little about me that you don't even realize you jacking up my peace right now. But that's a whole nother conversation that can go off into a whole lot of different directions. But it's interesting to be in this position, and I have the perfect person for you. I'm like, no, wait a minute. First of all, she ain't perfect. Let's start there. She ain't perfect. I ain't perfect. None of us are. So don't even approach me starting with, I got the perfect person. No, I promise you don't. I guarantee you don't. But it's interesting navigating this season, and where the kids have really been in the past year. The kids have really been my focus in getting them settled. To even have people question the time that I put into the kids, I'm like, you got to back up off me. You got no room for an opinion at all in this. Not knowing what all I have been through, and making sure that the kids know how much I love them, and actually reconnecting after having been apart for over 2 years. But it's an interesting dance, man. Again, everybody's got an opinion about what I'm supposed to be doing, in this season. And I'm like, things will come when they're supposed to come.
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say to that, man, and I'm certainly not a relationship expert by any stretch of the imagination, and don't want to be. But I do realize that two things. Number one, I'm glad I'm not dating in this part of my second half. It would terrify the crap out of me right now if I were in this dating market.
Right.
It is the craziest thing, man. And I sit back and I watch, people who are now in the market, my brother, yourself, and other people that I know, and I watch you guys do this song and dance, and I'm like, yeah, I want no parts of that. And because I'm afraid that if I were out there, it would probably turn me back to the old me, and that's just not the person anybody needs to see. So I'm glad I'm not. But I'll say this, man, as it relates to you and a few others, as it relates to you guys I won't say looking for relationships, but being open to it.
Yeah.
Take your time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Take your time and pick exactly what you want. You don't
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
bro. Y'all, realistically, you guys are in the catbird seat. Anybody who's single, you can get exactly what you want if you choose to date in this second half of your life. You don't
Yeah.
have to settle. Why?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so she can look how you want her to look. She can be as tall
Yeah.
as you want her to be, as you want her to be. She could be as dark or as light or whatever. It could be whatever you want it to be, brother. And you don't have to settle. And
Yeah.
that goes for any sister that's out there in their second half. You ain't got to settle for no
Yeah.
BS from no dude. I
Yeah.
mean, don't get me wrong. I know the market's a little different between women and men, but you
Yeah.
still don't have to put up with no BS if you don't want to.
Right. Right. Right.
So man, take your time and it'll come when it's supposed to, man. And what I will say, and this has nothing to do with second half and nothing to do with mental health and nothing to do with check-in, but you mentioned it, how people say, hey, I got this friend, and I'm trying to hook you up. Sisters, and this is women in particular. I'm gonna holler at my sisters. No, actually, I'm going to say this to my brothers, and I'm going to say this to you and my brother, who I know are single at this point. When people try to hook you up, the first thing a brother's going to say is, "Well, what does your friend look like?" That's just who we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't tell me your friend is cute, because that's it. Or better yet, she's cute and she's got a great personality. Red flag, red flag, bruh. I promise you. I don't know what it is, but women are the worst judge of other women, and I'm putting that out there. Now, if one of your boys
Agreed.
tell you she's bad, chances are she's bad.
Right.
So
Right.
you probably, because we all got that same kind of eye, because we are visual
Right.
creatures.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
get to the personality and all the stuff when we get there. But right now, come on, son.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Typically starts with some physicalities, and
yeah,
and moves its way from there. At least the initial contact.
yeah, and we'll get to the
Initial.
conversation. Yeah, we'll get
Yeah.
to the conversation and the intelligence level and all of that stuff. But the first thing we're gonna notice is not what she walked up saying.
Right.
It's gonna be what she looked like when she walked up. It's just kind of what it is. It may be shallow, but it's kind of what it is.
Kind of what it. It's kind of what it is. It's
Yeah,
kind of what
man.
it is. No doubt. No doubt.
So no,
So
bro,
let me.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask you. So in regards to um, the podcast
Mm-hmm.
and the direction it's going, where it's going, how you coming in with that? How you feeling about it?
So man, I think you heard me use this term earlier, ebb and flow. It
Yeah.
ebbs and flows. Um, and I think the reason is, I mean, I never question if what we're doing is right. I
Yeah.
always feel like it's right.
Yeah.
Um, I do question, um, are we? It's one of these things where you're like, all right, you want to grow this community, you want to grow this big community. And when it doesn't happen as fast as you would like for it to, you get a bit discouraged.
Yep. Yep.
So there are days where I'm just literally discouraged. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah.
But it never fails that the moment that I'm feeling a bit discouraged, you'll get that call, you'll get that text, or you'll run into somebody and they'll say, "Hey man, I watched your podcast," and you're like, "I had no clue that you were watching."
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
you'll get a text from somebody that said, "Hey, I just watched the episode you guys did about physical health with Dr. Tanya Ivory, and
Right.
I am now on this weight loss journey as a result of that because I had diabetes or I had high blood pressure or whatever." And you're like, "Wow."
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you hear people talk about, as my brother put it, showing up and showing out, and
Mhm.
and and at our season in life. So man, again, it ebbs and flows. I try to stay relatively level-headed about it and not
Right.
let my emotions get too involved.
Right.
But it's tough, man, because you want to put out a good product, and I think we are. And you heard me say at the beginning of the year that show me another podcast who holistically touches our community the way ours does, and I
Right.
challenge anybody on that. So that
Yeah.
lets me know that we're doing the right thing. But again, the numbers aren't quite where we want them to be. But something tells me if we stay steadfast and true to the game, that the numbers are coming. Even if they don't, if we're helping the people we're supposed to help, then that's kind of our mission anyway.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Yeah. I'm right there with you. It's been interesting again. Spend some time on YouTube. Spend some time listening to some gurus in this space, in this podcast space, who have in recent months taken what I think is kind of a different path, a different angle to their approach to this. And their messaging now is, don't be so concerned about numbers. Don't be so concerned about numbers of likes, numbers of subscribers. Your community will grow organically if you're giving them a good product. And like you, when I look back over 2023 and the episodes we did there and the first episodes of this year, I've said to you, man, we're giving some great content here. I just hate that it's not more people that are consuming it. And
Yeah.
these gurus in this space, the message that they are giving now is don't sweat it. Do not sweat it. If your message is tapping into your community, which ours now is 2,600 people, focus on your community. And that's what we've kind of, pledged to do.
Yeah.
Let's focus on these folks who have decided they're going to rock with us. They're consuming what it is that we're putting out. We are looking for ways to incorporate some lives into it, even with these check-ins.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've talked about, plans that we've talked about, is doing these check-ins live to allow our community to let us know how they're checking in on a given day or given night. Again, because some people just don't have that outlet to do so, and just to share it, period, may be just enough to keep them going a little bit further. I had somebody ask me at one point on Facebook, if I respond to something, it's typically with a heart.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you do that? Why do you respond to everything with a heart when there's the thumbs up, like, or something else? I said, you know what? My heart, my I love you might be the only one that person gets that day. Might be the only one they get in a month or a year. So yeah, if you get something from me, it's going to be for the most part, it's going to be a love symbol, unless it's something else. But that's the reason why we want to give our community an opportunity to talk directly to us as well. You and I have been real transparent. We're on this journey. We're not gurus in this journey, on this middle essence second half journey. We're on this journey ourselves, still in total transparency, trying to figure different aspects of it out. And we're just inviting our community to go on this journey with us. So it's like you, it's been an ebb and flow for me. You hope that you're giving good information. You are giving good information when you don't see numbers increasing at times in the way that you'd like. It's a blow.
Yeah.
Because like, man, I just, that was a bar. I needed somebody to hear that. That was great information. I needed somebody to hear that. But similarly, it never fails when I get into a lull where it's like, oh man, are we doing this in vain, or is it good? You get some message from somebody that's rocked with you from the door and say, hey guys, keep your head up, keep going, keep putting out good information, and folks are following you, and more are to come. I went to an event last Thursday at A&T to hear the Black billionaire Robert F. Smith, as a part of the Chancellor Speaker Series. And I walk into the venue, the event space, and I make a turn to go in the aisle and get a seat. And a guy is sitting down, and he stands up and kind of puts his hands up, and I'm lost. I'm completely lost. But he puts his hands up like we know each other. And I'm like, I have never seen this brother. I ain't never seen this brother in my life. And then he says, yo, chill. And I said, folks who know me, folks who call me chill, are really a tight-knit, close people who know me very well. The world kind of knows me as Hump. Those who know me as chill and call me chill, they are really kind of inner circle folks. But I use that on the podcast. And he literally called me by the name, and I'm pounding him up. He said, it's like, told me who he was, and I'm trying to figure out, have we met? Did you go to A&T? He's got on Alpha jacket. I'm like, you pledged BE? He said, no, I went to Duke undergrad. I'm like, dude, I got nothing. I got no clue as to who you are, but you obviously know me. And within seconds, he said, no, I watched the podcast, man. I love it. Wow. And, it just warmed my heart, man, that, folks are looking that we don't realize even have eyes on us. And he was very complimentary and congratulatory as well. Just saying, yo, man, you guys keep going. You're doing it. You're doing it. Keep going, keep pushing. And we know that there are things coming, but this entrepreneurial journey, which is, what this is a purposeful journey. It's an entrepreneurial journey. It's not for the weak at heart. It's not for the weak at heart.
Man, I'll say this. The greatest drum major to ever lead a group of people is Jesus Christ. And yet there's still millions upon millions upon millions of people who don't follow him. So what makes us any better, brother? All we can do is keep.
That's over.
Yeah, it just is what it is, man. What we can do is keep putting out our content. Keep making sure it's quality content. As they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You just got to find. We just got to find some thirsty horses, brother. We just got to find some thirsty horses. That's all.
Were there some things in 2024? I know you're not a New Year's resolution person. I'm not either, but I know you set goals for yourself. Were there any specific things or a specific thing that you charged yourself to do in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to my personal side with my wife. Again, we made a conscious effort that we were going to bring this 10-year anniversary in with the bang, assuming that we're all healthy and everything else. And we've done that. I put a couple books on my reading list that I was going to read for 2024. I've started that obviously with the Courtney B. Vance book. Man, it's funny. I was in church. Well, I'm there. I try to be every Sunday, but this was several weeks ago. And my pastor put up on the display some things that he wanted us to do for the week. And and this is as it relates to relationships, meaning personal relationship with your spouse or your spouse, basically. He did a relationship series. And he said, make room for laughing, make room for learning, make room for listening, make room for lusting, and make room for loving. I know some people are like, lusting, but he's talking about within your marriage. I think if you take it outside of a husband-wife relationship, I'm definitely making room for laughing. I'm making room for learning. I'm making room for listening
Yeah.
in my 2024, man. And I think if I do all of that, especially those three outside of my marriage, I want to do all five in my marriage, but those three
Right.
main things outside of my marriage, it'll make for a peaceful 2024.
Right.
It should be a fulfilling 2024, and we'll see where it goes, man.
It's good stuff. That's good
Yeah.
stuff. I shared with you at one point earlier, one of my real goals was just to be intentional. It kind of ties in with what we're doing right now, even with this check-in, was intentionality was going to be my word for 2024. And part of that intentionality was making sure that I maintained contact with just really important people in my life and those that I may have encountered. We may not have the exact, degree of contact that we had at some point, but to reestablish it, if it meant that much at some point to work to reestablish those contacts, but trying to get out and see people that I haven't seen in some time, that are in striking distance or not in striking distance. They may be in
Right.
another part of the country, and like what we were talking about earlier, planning the time, literally planning the time to get out and make some visits, make some trips that I haven't done in a bit, to see some people that are important. And then just
Yeah.
simple check-ins like what we're talking about here. We've been on for about an hour, and one of the things I would encourage of people, check in with your folks. It doesn't have to be a long conversation.
Nope.
I've reached out to folks. I've reached out to you before. Yo, bro, how you doing? I'm good, man. What's good? You all right? I'm all right. Hey, just need to hear your voice.
Yeah.
Click, and and we're on and off. I know you're okay. If it's not that case, I know I'll get a quick call back. Yo, you got off real quick, man. Let me holler at you for a second.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be a long thing, long conversation, but literally just to reach out to folks who have meant something in your life, who still mean something in your life. And as I've said before, could literally, in just that phone call, because it's happened with me, can change the trajectory, the mood, of your whole day, just to get a call like that. So that was intentionality was one, continuing to push the creative in me, because that's so much a part of who I am. Certainly the podcast gives me an outlet to do that. The work, this entrepreneurial work around the podcast, gives me an opportunity to do that. But a lot of people don't know I'm a visual artist.
Yeah.
And probably a couple of weeks ago, my kid was away at his mother's, and I literally pulled my sketch pad and pencils and pens out of a bag, and sat down. Woke up early that morning, sat down about 7 o'clock. And when I looked up from the piece I was working on, it was about 3:30 in the afternoon.
Wow.
And that used to be my life. I mean, that really used to be so much a part of me, when I was really ingrained in it, and could get lost in it, for 7-8 hours. Didn't eat, didn't drink anything, just consumed with the piece. And I realized that was one of those things that helped give me that woosah, helped give me the peace you were talking about earlier. That I've got to get back to it. It's a talent that's always been there. It's something I thoroughly enjoy, and at times you just got to break some things off and just do for yourself in that regard. And the last thing, I guess, with me in this regard, and a friend just last week emphasized it again. She said, I need you to just do something out of the ordinary for yourself.
Yeah.
For an hour. It might be an hour, might be two, but I know Christians with you, don't involve Christian. This is just some time for you, for yourself. And what I ended up doing was going over on the yard, man, and just walking literally to get some exercise. I walked A&T's campus. And I went up to the Greensboro 4 statue and realized that early voting was going on in the Dudley building. And I don't know whether you're aware of this now, but the Dudley building is an art gallery.
Yeah.
And so literally walked through the gallery, beautiful, incredible pieces in there. For those folks in Greensboro, if you haven't done it, by all means, go check it out. And then was trying to figure out what we're going to eat for dinner and went to Fresh Market. I mean, it's basically nothing kind of stuff, but man, it was so therapeutic, bruh. And, got into Fresh Market and, the different vendors in there doing their thing. I spent entirely too much money in there just supporting small businesses, supporting brothers and sisters businesses.
Yep.
And just chopping it up with them, just talking about their businesses and how things were going and the whole nine. And it was just good. It was just good to do something for me, again, as a brother, that didn't involve, okay, I'm still in protection mode of the family, and I'm in earning mode for the family, and I'm in, whatever kind of mode for the family. This is just some time for you to just chill. And we've all got to do.
No, you got to do that, bro. Yeah, man. I'll just go back to what you said, man. I think it's important that we check in on our strong friends. Because those typically are the ones who suffer in silence. And those are typically the ones who bear everyone else's burdens, whether we know it or not. So definitely check on your strong friends. Brother, I appreciate, again, we had something else planned for this episode, but I appreciate you having the wherewithal of saying, hey, we need to do a check-in because we haven't done it in a minute. Realizing that we hadn't spoken a lot and we haven't physically seen each other except for on this platform in a minute because we haven't done one in person. So I appreciate that. Again, I encourage everyone, if you get a chance, please pick up this book, The Invisible Ache, Black Men Identifying Their Pain and Reclaiming Their Power. I encourage brothers to pick it up. I encourage sisters to pick it up. We have got to take care of one another. You've heard me say that. We've got to take care of one another because at the end of the day, we all we got.
All we got. Make sure you check in. Make sure you check in. Make sure you check in. This has been real, soul to soul. Make sure you check in with your peeps, and we'll see you on the next episode. God bless.